house needs painting, grass needs mowing, where's he at?
Hi, this is Hank. Sorry I missed your call. Leave me your name and your number and I'll get back to you.
He's gone fishing.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Mossy Oak and Liqua Molly.
Welcome to Off the Water with Hank Parker. I'm your co-host, Sarah Beth, and you are?
I'm Hank Parker, and it's so good to be with you today. Glad you're tuning in and joining in. That's awesome.
You like my hat?
I do. ODF, you know what that stands for?
Outdoor Dream Foundation.
The Outdoor Dream Foundation. Well, let's talk about the Outdoor Dream Foundation just a little bit. Brad Jones and his dad, Coach Jones. You know, Coach Jones, they did a movie, wrote a book first, Radio. There was a young man that was in their town, and Coach Jones was a football coach, and Radio was a kid that had some challenges. I don't know exactly what all his issues were, but he was not completely normal. Would be a good word, maybe. He was.
Yeah, he had some condition. I don't exactly know. I would have to look it up. But yeah, that's such a good movie. I do recommend that y'all go watch that. It was so good.
Yeah, the movie,
so
and they did a movie, Radio.
Yeah.
And so Coach Jones, I think Brad, it was very simple how it all started, the Outdoor Dream Foundation. Brad was maybe in a restaurant and overheard a conversation, and I may have this all wrong, about a kid that was going to go with Make-A-Wish Foundation on a hunt, and Make-A-Wish decided they had one of their big sponsors say, if you're gonna go hunting, we're going to withdraw our sponsorship. So Make-A-Wish stopped hunting.
Okay, is that because they just didn't believe in it? They didn't want to
I don't know if the Make-A-Wish Foundation had a concern, but one of the biggest sponsors, and I understand the pressure of trying to appease a big sponsor, and you don't want to lose them, so
right.
They said, if you do hunting, we're not going to support the Make-A-Wish. So they withdrew from hunting, and this kid was crushed. Now, I'm not sure if this actually took place in a restaurant or where, but anyway, the word got back to Brad Jones, Coach Jones' son, who they did the movie Radio after, that this kid was not going to be able to go on this hunt that he had his heart set on. And it was a terminally ill young man. And so Coach Jones, out of his pocket, funded a hunting trip for him. And then there became a little girl who wanted to go on a hunting trip, and she couldn't go, so Coach Jones also funded that. And so this thing got really going, and they started the Outdoor Dream Foundation and started trying to get people to participate. They started doing fundraisers, and they've taken 1,800 kids. I forget the number, but it's up there around 1,500 or more kids, and it may even be more than that. And I heard Brad say just the other day how many kids, and it was astounding to me. I personally have participated with about 35.
Yeah, I know you've done a lot. We just posted a YouTube video a couple weeks ago. It was a rerun show from the Outdoor Dream Foundation doing a turkey hunt with two little boys.
Yeah.
And I know you've done a lot, and you've said how
it was special.
How blessed you were to be able to be a part of that for these kids.
Yeah. So the Outdoor Dream Foundation is an organization that takes kids with life-threatening illnesses on their dream outdoor adventure. Some of these kids want to go hunting, some want to go fishing, some just want to go take pictures and go out and enjoy the outdoors that really doesn't have a hunting or fishing agenda, just to get out. So the Outdoor Dream Foundation is multifaceted. They do all sorts of dream hunts and fishing trips and outdoor adventures. So how awesome they are. And so I got my ODF sweatshirt on, and Sarah Beth has her ODF hat. So we want to give a salute out to the Outdoor Dream Foundation.
How long have they been going? When did they start? Do you know roughly?
I've been involved with them for probably about 16 years,
So
maybe
probably
17.
maybe
so.
roughly 25.
No, I don't think so. I think I got involved maybe in their second or third year. So I don't really
Roughly.
know. I'll look that up. And we'll try to find that out.
Don't quote us on that, but they at
Yeah,
least
I don't know.
around 20 is
Yeah,
what we're assuming.
around
so
20 years.
Wow, that's awesome. They've grown so much too, because I still see stuff pop across my feed of the Outdoor Dream Foundation, so they're still very relevant.
We
and I
had,
think it's really cool what they're doing.
Had JJ, a little buddy of mine, JJ, I took him fishing, and sometimes in public water, I always talk about how important it is to throw fish back in public water. But stripers is a put and take fish. They stock them, and when you catch them, you keep them. And Lake Murray, there's a rule you can't throw them back. So, and you don't need to throw them back when you catch them deep, because they're gonna die. And I've just given JJ a hard time. We caught him, and of course he'd never fished out of a boat before. He'd always fished off the shoreline.
shore.
They fished private lakes, and so I'd catch a fish. I said, "I'm gonna throw him back." JJ said, "No, put him in the bucket. Put him in the bucket. Put him in the bucket." So I said, "The live well." He said, "I don't care what you call it. Just put him in the bucket."
Put him in the bucket. You want to take him home.
JJ passed away last year, and it's so disappointing and it's so heartbreaking. I've lost about 9 or 10 of the little guys and girls that I've fished with have passed away, and it is a tough deal, but you get their mind off at least for a few days. They go through so much medical treatment, and they have so much to dread.
Well, they lose that quality of life, especially, man, I was held in a hospital for 4 days, and I was thinking, I'm like, some people have to stay for long periods of time in a hospital like that. And I was like, I could not wrap my head around that. Like, it makes me want to start crying.
These kids, when they have the opportunity, knowing they're going through their chemo treatments or whatever their treatments may be, and they know in 2 weeks they're going to get to go on a fishing trip or a hunting trip.
Gives them hope.
The doctors have told Brad Jones, the director of the Outdoor Dream Foundation, that is some of the best medicine. It
is.
Actually helps these kids be stronger
Keep
and
fighting.
have a better immune, because they've got something to look forward to, and that is so important. And so we try to provide that. But JJ, he was in Memphis in the hospital, I guess the Shriners Hospital, and so Bill Dance and Luke Bryan go to see him, and I'm so grateful that they did. Thank you, Luke, and thank you, Bill.
Oh, Bill.
But Luke asked him, he said, "Do you have a favorite country music singer?" And JJ said, "Yeah, Brad Paisley." He said, "Well, how about Luke Bryan?" He said, "You're okay."
You're all right.
He said, "Well, have you got a favorite fisherman?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Bill Dance?" He said, "No, Hank Parker."
Oh, man. He's probably thinking I got gypped.
Yeah. So way to go, buddy. But it wasn't but just a couple of weeks after that JJ had professed his faith in Jesus Christ. So JJ went to heaven about 2 or 3 weeks after Luke and Bill went to see him. So.
That's so wonderful, though. I mean, the fact that he was able to make that profession and he got to meet them, that's so cool.
Yeah, and that's what the Outdoor Dream Foundation's all about. It's just making a bad situation as good as you can do. And so I just wanted to give us a shout out, and I think we'll shift gears and talk about conservation.
Yes.
You have been asking me questions, and we're getting emails. It's turkey season
comments.
is around the corner.
Turkey season around the corner. People want to know, how do you preserve your land? So, okay, somebody goes out and they buy X amount of acreage of land. What is your first step to start the conservation effort for your own property? If you're wanting to build up deer, if you're wanting to build up turkey, whatever it is that you're hunting for.
Well, when I started, I bought land early on. I bought part of this farm that I live on now. I bought the majority of it in 1984. And it was relatively inexpensive, but the minute I bought this land, I felt a tremendous responsibility to the wildlife and to make this place a better place than what it had been. And the lady that owned this farm before I bought it, she was a very sweet lady, and she was a cattle farmer, and she did the best that she could do. But I didn't feel like the wildlife was in as good a shape as it could have been.
Yep.
And I'll be honest, I was just green as grass. I had no idea. I didn't even know anything about a browse line. I didn't know anything.
Well, most people don't. Like, I had no idea. When I thought land maintenance, I'm thinking you got to cut the grass. You know, you'd think, okay, the ecosystem's going to balance itself out, but we don't know that we are actually the stewards of that, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. Predator control. Predators get too high. We have that problem now. Predators are too high, so then there goes your deer population, turkeys, rabbits, everything. And then, you know, when that gets overrun, it becomes a whole mess.
Yeah, and it is. It's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of work. Well, I started out, I didn't know anything at all about the browse line, and at that time, we didn't have coyotes.
Right.
No coyotes. And so in 1985, I bought the farm in 84. In 1985, I had a biologist for the state of South Carolina put an application in to see if he would come out and work with me and give me advice and look at my land. And so we rode down through the farm, and I've got one main road that leads down to the big field. Mm-hmm. And we start down the road, and he said, I can tell you right now, you're grossly overpopulated with deer. Well, we hadn't even seen a deer.
You're probably like, where are you getting that from?
Yeah.
Are you smoking something?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I was so green, I had no earthly idea. He said, man, look at your browse line. Look at your cedar trees. Look at your browse line is beyond what a small deer can eat right now. A yearling deer will stand on their hind feet and reach as far as they can to get to the browse.
Foliage,
but
yeah.
your browse line's
way
beyond
high.
their reach.
So then they're going to start starving.
You'll have deer starved to death.
Yeah.
And you know, I never even dreamt of that. And I said, well, what I do about that? He said, well, you got to control the population. He said, you can enhance by supplementary feeding. You can do food plots. You can your pasture grass. You can fertilize it. You can make what you have here better. But you're going to have to get rid of some of these deer. You're going to have to take the responsibility to thin this herd out because you got way too many.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that is an unseen side of hunting that people don't talk about. You know, I now have family in the UK, and I know some of them, they're very against hunting, or so I've heard, or they don't understand, like, oh, don't shoot that deer. I'm like, it's more than just killing an animal. You're not killing just to kill something. Yes, it's a sport, but you're doing it. I was always raised with what we shoot, we eat, and you know, you're respectful to the land and to the animals that you're killing. You know, and you're doing it for a reason. Like you said, if you let your deer herd get out of control, the next generation of deer, the younger ones, aren't going to be able to eat. So I remember shooting my first doe, and you had told me, you were teaching me, okay, look for the old doe, because the old ones, the older that they get, the meaner that they get to the younger ones, and they don't let them feed. They don't let them eat. And yes, I know exactly what you're thinking of right now.
I'm not going to say a word. I'm listening to your philosophies. You go, girl.
Tell your story. Go ahead.
No.
All right.
I'm listening to your philosophies. That's good.
But that's what you taught me. You said pop off the old ones.
Well, and that's because they get barren
after
a while. They're not productive in reproduction system. And so some of those older does, they need to go. And people that are anti-hunting because of cruelty to animals, what is more cruel, shooting an animal with a gun or allowing an animal to starve to death
and suffer,
or allowing an animal now, and I've seen this multiple times, more in Canada than I have here, but I have seen it here on this particular farm, where a deer gets weak or wounded or old, the coyotes eat them. And the coyotes eat them while they're alive. The coyotes start at the back end. It's the cruelest thing. I hate coyotes. I hate them
too.
And people think, they're cute little animals. Well, they're vicious. They're murderers. They kill.
Right, and that is their role. So, a coyote is going to act the way that God has intended him to, which is to be a predator. But it's up to us to keep tabs on that. We're meant to be the
I'm gonna keep
maintenance
tabs.
person. Yeah, you're keeping
you
tabs.
coyote.
You're keeping tabs. I'll tell you what, I can't stand a coyote either.
Yeah, I'm
just
for the roadrunner.
just for that fact. And I mean, we've been talking about getting out there and doing some predator control just because this past deer season was terrible.
It was
terrible. This
It
is
was.
probably the first year in a little while that I didn't even shoot, not even a doe. Not a doe, not a buck.
It was. We had a very difficult year, and our numbers are somewhat down. But we run trail cameras, and we look and we see the population wasn't as far down as the deer were just so sought after by the coyotes. They were always on the run. It was we got a high population of coyotes, and we got to get
Very.
rid of them. And so we've been working on them, and they're smart. They're so incredibly
they're
keen.
fast. They're so fast too. We had seen we had saw one off the side of the road on your land. We were driving by, and when I say that sucker took off so fast, went right back down into like his little hole down in there. So we've been trying to scope out where their like little dens are. And you go walking around his property, and the only thing that you can see is coyote tracks, coyote scat, and usually in that scat, like when we went rabbit hunting, rabbit fur, deer fur, you can just tell they're wiping them out.
Turkey season's coming up, and I rode down the road yesterday after the rain just to see how many turkey tracks I could see, and it's very sad when you see more coyote tracks than you do turkey tracks. And I
Right.
saw probably 4-to-1 coyote tracks over turkey tracks. So.
Right.
We got a problem. I've tried to trap, and I'll tell you, South Carolina, I don't know if all states are like this, but South Carolina has a terrible, can I repeat that? Terrible law on trapping. You got to get a trapper's license, and you can only trap certain times out of the year. Coyotes are out all the time.
Year
and
round.
It's wrong. And then if you don't fill out this big survey at the end of the year on how many animals you trapped, when you trapped them, what county, all this stuff, then you can't get a trapper's license the next year. And you got to pay a lot of money to get a trapper's license to get rid of a nuisance to be a good steward on your land.
Your land.
I totally disagree. I love our state. I love our wildlife officers. I go to a lot of places. I travel. And I will tell you, South Carolina has some of the nicest wildlife officers in the country, and I appreciate that because that's a reflection of our state.
It really is.
And you can give somebody a ticket for a violation, which you should do. That's your job. But you can be courteous and nice and not make them feel like, they're being interrogated as the world's biggest criminal.
Yeah, exactly.
Illinois is horrible, man. I've had 4 different wildlife officers, and maybe that's unfair to say that because maybe it's just those 4 officers. But I've had encounters with 4 officers in Illinois that were so rude, and I called them out. I said, man, you're trying to make me feel like a criminal. He said, well, you are one. Well, how you figure that? I've done nothing wrong. I've got my license. Everything's in. He said, everybody violates sooner or later. Well, we all speed. We all go faster than.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. I'd be like, you go 2 miles over the speed limit, you criminal.
Yeah, that's a bad attitude. I didn't like that. I don't think. But so maybe I shouldn't have called them out because it may have been those 4 officers in the state of Illinois that I ran across, and the rest of them are all nice. But South Carolina as a whole. But that particular law, trapping law, is way off. It's wrong. There should be no trapping law. You should not have to have a trapper's license for coyotes. Maybe bobcats, they put a season on bobcats.
Right.
And maybe that's necessary. I don't know. I can't dispute it because I don't have a survey showing how many bobcats. And you want to protect.
It should do with the numbers and the population. And I feel like if your land specifically has an overrun of predators and you see that, they should make it to where there's like some kind of application or you can fill out where somebody will come out and survey your land and say, okay, you can kill XYZ. Like, it should be a case-by-case basis, especially when it comes to like, okay, how is it fair to put a protection on one animal and then they get overpopulated and then other animals start to get underpopulated and then you're messing up everything? Because, I mean, it all trickles down from the predator to your prey animals down to your plants. Everything's going to get affected.
Well, I don't see any reason at all to try to preserve coyotes. I think coyotes are open season. They are now.
Right.
North Carolina, they did a bonehead thing by releasing the red wolf, and now the red wolf has interbred with the coyotes.
Yep, coyote wolves.
And they're horrible.
They are.
That should have never been done. I totally disagree with the wolves in Yellowstone. I totally disagree in the Dakotas releasing the wolves. At White Mountain in Arizona on the Indian reservation now, where the elk population is suffering greatly because of the wolf. They should have never released the wolves there.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating to see people that the only exercise they get is jumping conclusions, and they don't weigh it all out. And then once it gets all messed up, I don't know where the coyotes came from in South Carolina. I've got a theory and philosophy, but I don't know if that's true, so I won't bring it up. But I will tell you they're out of control.
Yeah, they are.
Nobody's ever been able to control them. Mm-hmm. So we should definitely not penalize a guy that is trying, or a girl, or a lady, or a man that is trying to control and do the best they can for preservation on the land, to make them have a trapper's license, and they can only trap this period of time. I hate all that. It's a wrong.
Right. I mean, we need predators to an extent. But I agree with you. I think that is a little bit ridiculous that you have to jump through all those hoops to just preserve your own land. Because again, I mean, people don't take into consideration that there needs to be a balance. That's what an ecosystem is. It requires balance. So when man comes in and interferes and starts introducing new animals to an area that, like, okay, the wolves. There might not have been wolves in that area for decades and decades. So
or ever.
Or ever. So the ecosystem has thrived perfectly without us, and then you go throwing in a third party, it's going to disrupt everything, and everything is like, whoa, hold on.
And that's where we are here. We never had coyotes in South Carolina. There's never, as far as I know, in my whole lifetime, for sure, there had never been coyotes. And now there is, and the wildlife department says that 50% minimum, 50% of our deer fawns fall victim to coyotes.
Right.
Think about that a minute. 50% of all deer fawns in the state of South Carolina are falling to coyotes.
That's a high percentage.
So we're losing the coyote battle for sure. Let's get rid of them.
Yep.
So let's don't penalize a guy that's trying to go out and set traps to get rid of coyotes.
Right.
And they're hard to catch. You can't hardly catch one the rest.
And they're hard. That's what I was just getting at too. Like trapping was probably more effective just because they are difficult to shoot and set up. You need the gear for it. You need the night vision. That's going to be probably your more effective time. But night vision equipment is ridiculously expensive too. So I mean, either way, I feel like I would rather just spend money on the trapping license than spend money on night vision, even though, don't get me wrong, staking out a coyote sounds pretty fun. You can make it still a fun time out of it, but I mean, either way, you're spending money.
Well, I think it's all of the above. I think just take all the cuffs off. They have taken off. You used to couldn't carry a gun at night, and you used to not even be allowed to have night vision. Now you can go coyote hunting with night vision legally. So they've taken a lot of the rules and regulations off. So they need to do the same with trapping.
Well, at least they've taken some of the rules and regulations off for that part, probably because they do recognize that, okay, there's a problem. Because I mean, even I've even noticed deer numbers driving, like, late at night. We live in rural South Carolina, so driving late at night on some roads, you have to go pretty slow just to watch out for deer. I'm seeing less and less, maybe every now and again, like a few doe or whatever on the side of the road, but I'm seeing less and less of that. My mother-in-law is here now. She's from the UK, and she's dying. She is dying
I thought she was
to
from
see.
England.
Oh, yeah, Okay, whatever. He thinks he's a comedian. Anyway, moving on. She's dying to see a deer.
Your mom-in-law. Your mom-in-law.
My mom. But anyway, she's been dying to see a deer. And I had told her, like, oh, there's tons of deer out at night. We have not seen one. She's like, the only thing that I've ever seen here are dead things, because she walked through your office with all your mounts and everything else. She's like, everything here in this state is dead. It's terrible.
I've got, Congress has the caucus room. I have the carcass room.
The carcass room.
It's all good, but nevertheless, we're trying to be
Yes.
good stewards.
Yes.
We think that the laws should be in line with what it takes to control the population. It's obvious we are losing the battle to coyote management. We are not keeping our coyotes in check.
No.
So we need to be relaxed not only on using night vision legally at night. Also, trapping season for coyotes should go away. Trapping license to be
Yes.
able to trap coyotes should go away. And I get the humane part about it. And everybody says, well, leg traps are inhumane. They're
Yeah.
actually not at all. These new leg traps by law, they can't pinch the legs. So when a coyote's caught in that leg trap, he's not in pain at all.
Yeah, it's not like a bear trap where it's
No,
like
it's
sliced
not
into his
squeezing
leg.
on him.
It's just holding him in place.
It will
Yeah.
not let him pull his paw through.
Yeah.
So, but it is inhumane to leave him out there.
Oh, for days. Yeah, that's not
wrong.
right.
That's wrong.
That's any trapping, in my opinion.
That's
like you
right.
should
I
never,
agree.
You never,
And that's the law. The law is you have to check your traps every day, and you should. You should. I don't mind that part.
Yeah.
But to regulate when you can trap and have to buy a license to do it,
Right.
I disagree with.
Well,
I think you should be able to go.
I like
trap.
what you do for your traps. Like we had a high number of raccoons and possums, which possums are pretty good whenever they don't get overrun because they eat ticks and they help regulate all of that. So they eat loads of ticks. So they're really good to have, especially like in wooded areas. But I think you're smart for what you do with your traps. You set up a camera right where your traps
Oh,
are,
yeah,
so
yeah.
he gets notified. So I would
Yeah.
say if you're gonna do any traps, do something like that, so then you get notified when something's been caught, or so you can go and deal with your
Yeah, let's
problem.
don't talk about me. Let's talk about trapping in general.
Trapping in general.
If you've got a live trap, especially, or a leg
pretty
trap, put a camera out there,
Yeah.
and you can see that animal's caught. And I've gone out in the middle of the night. I don't like for
humane.
anything to suffer. I'm
No.
totally against anything suffering. And so I go out there and check them. If I see one on my camera, I'll go out there and take care of him at night. And not let him stay in there all day. And hey, I got
All
a good
night.
chance to catch another one if I get him out of there.
Yeah.
As long as he's in that trap,
There
I'm
you
not
go.
going to get another one. So I've got tons that I need to catch. And you
They're
know,
overrun.
when I was putting out Khmer deer and watching how deer react to it for multiple reasons, but I was also trying to attract deer to a location, and I'm running cameras, and I'm seeing 6 and 7 and 8 raccoons on every single bait station that I have.
Right.
Man, you
not
know
good.
you are overrun with raccoons when
Yeah.
you start seeing 7 and 8 and sometimes 9. I've seen as many as 11.
But and even still, people will always try to complain like, "Oh, but the raccoons, they're good."
They
That
eat turkey
hurts
eggs.
turkey population, and we've struggled.
They eat turkey eggs.
Well, we've struggled too keeping a good turkey population in general. So I completely agree with you. You're doing what's best for your land, and I feel like everybody should. But moving on a little bit from like predator control, how do you take care of your prey animals? So like your turkey, your deer. What are some things that you've implemented on your land?
Food and cover is essential for wildlife. And I tell you, I talked to a gentleman just last week that's working really, really hard to get conservation easements put in place for the average landowner, whether he's a small landowner or a large landowner. Right now, for whatever reason, it seems like the wealthy people in America controlled land conservation. And so to get a conservation permit, let's just say the federal government, and I'll just throw out a number, the federal government would pay you $50 per acre to put your land in a conservation easement. Now, that money will not be cash money. It will be offset against your taxes. So, but it gives you an incentive to put your land in a conservation easement. If your land is in a conservation easement and deeded, then it can never be developed.
Yeah.
So as you're seeing all this wildlife getting pushed out with no habitat, conservation easements will assure for the future that there will be land available for wildlife that will never be developed. There'll be no housing development. There'll be no strip malls or whatever that occupies the land that takes for wildlife. So you can put your land. Right now, it is a logistic nightmare to try to get that put in place, but I just talked to a gentleman. He's working with Johnny Morris at Bass Pro Shops trying to get this. Johnny is the single. I talk about Toxie Hayes a lot. Toxie's philosophy and Johnny's philosophy are a lot alike. But Johnny's in a position with Bass Pro and Cabela's where they, when you go to the cash register, they give you the option if you spent $9.20, would you like to round that off to $10? So that 80 cents, Johnny has given $400 million to conservation in the last 10 years. Much of that money is collected at that cash register where you, the consumer, says, yeah, go ahead and round that off to an even number.
Yeah, like an extra 20, 30 cents, whatever.
Yeah. And that's incredible. So Johnny's doing a lot for conservation. He's done more for conservation single-handedly than any other person alive, and probably more than any other group. He is the king of conservation, and I salute you, Johnny Morris.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. Like in my mind, like just the fact that somebody is so willing to be so passionate about conservation. Like I feel like that's one of the things that I'm more passionate about when it comes to hunting. Like, you know, I think the mentality of people that just go out and shoot, like, oh, if it's brown, it's down. You ever heard that saying?
Oh, yeah.
If it's brown, it's down. It makes me sick to my stomach, especially when you see them. They post it on Instagram, too, like it's some big trophy thing. I'm like, dude, that's a, like, 1-year-old buck that's got, like, little tiny horns sticking up out of his head. Like, that's not a trophy. I wouldn't post that.
That's a subject for another day. There is all kind of exceptions, and we got to be real careful not to. There's some people that doesn't have access and opportunity, and it may be the only deer they've seen in a year or whatever.
That's fair enough. So, but still, seeing like young animals like that have the potential to grow, it still is pretty sad. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Either way.
And we learn. Hey, I learned that. I didn't know any better. I didn't know anything about a browse line. I didn't know anything about the right way to harvest. I didn't know anything about trophy hunting. I didn't know any of that. And I've grown into that. Yeah. But to go back to where we're talking about conservation, there is so much opportunity for us to look at different regulations. And I really like this whole idea of a conservation easement to put your land where it'll never be developed. And there are a lot of older farmers that are getting out of the dairy business and they're selling out and they don't have children to divide the land, and they really don't want to see their land become a housing development. Right. They want to keep, so a conservation easement would be a wonderful program, and it should be something that would be easy for them to get involved in, and right now it's not. So hopefully that this individual that I was talking with last week can get with Johnny, and Johnny's got enough horsepower, he's got enough connections, he's got enough understanding and resources to make something like that possible, and it would be better for our environment, be a lot better for our animals, which would be better for all of us in the future. So I'm hopeful that is a program that can be put together.
Yeah, that would be really cool, because imagine how many people would have the opportunity, like you were saying, some of those farmers that don't have, family to leave their stuff to. I completely agree with that. There was one lady, she came to me. She is actually one of my clients, and she owns a cattle farm, meat cows, not dairy cows, and she's getting ready to sell in the next 5 years. And she said, I don't want to give it to anybody who's not going to take care of my cows, or if they're just going to sell off the land. She doesn't want that. So I think there's a lot more people that are out there. It's more common than we think that people want to preserve their land.
That is one thing that you look at camaraderie in farmers. It doesn't matter if they're from Canada or from New York or from Florida or Carolinas or Texas. They all have this common mutual respect, and it gives them a bond, like hunters or fishermen. I automatically bond with another fisherman or a hunter, and it's the same with farmers. There is, and I'm the same way. I have a passion for my land. I have a deep respect for my land, and I also realize it ain't my land at all. It'll be somebody else's, the next generation and the next generation. I'm just a steward. God has put me in the position of being a steward,
Right.
and I want to be a good steward. I want to leave the land better than I found it. So you walk back, and we circle the wagons, and we try to get back where we started on the topic.
Right.
What do?
Yeah.
How do you make your land more favorable for wildlife? What does it take? Well, we started when I brought the biologist down for the first time the year after I bought the farm, and he realized that my browse line was beyond reach for
The young ones, the
young deer.
Yeah.
So we got to thin the population, and that's a dirty job. You know, I get tired of shooting does. And it's expensive if you're going to have them processed. But I have them processed, and I give them away. I do cut some up myself and prepare the meat. But most of the time, if you're giving it away, people prefer to have it freezer wrapped and all that.
Right.
And I get it. And they want to make sure it's clean, and they're more comfortable if it's processed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I kill more deer than I can use, so I provide other people with the meat, and I pay for the processing. Well, that's expensive, but it's part of being a good steward. You gotta, I cannot shoot an animal and not harvest the meat. It is a waste, and it's actually illegal, and that's good. I'm glad that it is. You should not be able to shoot a deer and just go throw it in the gully because you wanted
to kill something.
Yeah, well, you wanted to cut down on the population. You got a job to do, and it'd be a lot easier if you say, okay, I'm going to shoot 15 deer and just throw them in the gully.
Yeah.
That's a lot easier.
Yeah, but even think about
that's
how
wrong.
many people you could feed with that too. I know that there's a lot of homeless shelters that will take donations for that type of stuff too.
That's exactly right.
Such a waste.
Yeah, and whether people agree or disagree, but I'm going to tell you, venison doesn't have any growth hormones, don't have any antibiotics. It doesn't get artificial protein. It's natural. It's the best, most wholesome meat you can probably eat.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It is very healthy, very
and
lean,
so I
very
like
good for
that,
you.
and I like giving it to people that enjoy it and people that want to save some money. Man, you go to the grocery store and you buy 10 pounds of beef, you've spent a lot of money.
Especially inflation now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. How do you spell that?
Go get you a carton of eggs right now.
ridiculous.
ridiculous. Yes, okay, sound it out.
Yeah, I said hooked on phonics. I thought you said hooked on sonics. I went and got a cherry limeade. Boy, it was good. Hey, we go back, and so now I realize the number one thing that I've got to do to preserve and make my land better is I've got to control my deer population, which is out of control.
Right.
So I start harvesting doe, and I really felt like I was taking more doe than I should, only to realize I wasn't putting a dent in them. It took a lot more. So there's programs that the biologists will allow you to submit where you get tags, way more tags than you get when you buy your license over the counter for the cause of conservation. And so that's good. So you get involved in those programs and you try to keep your deer herd in check. Then what do you do?
Right.
Well, you can mow your pastures or your grass and fertilize. Fertilize will make a big difference. When you put fertilizer on your pastures in your fields, it grows more browse, more food, and food plots. Growing food plots. I plant about 15 acres of food plots, and I could plant more, but it takes more time than I have. I'm a one-man band. I do everything myself, so it's all that I can possibly keep up with. But I plant biologic, and I fertilize it. They make a product called Green Patch Plus, and it offers a variety of seed that allows different times of year. It has a lot of clover in it, and the clover I planted in September or August, and I get a really good food plot for the deer in the fall of the year, and the clover doesn't really come through until the spring of the year. Then I have good clover for deer and turkeys in the spring of the year. So to me, it is the best that I can plant. Now, a lot of guys are converting over Toxie Hayes at Mossy Oak, I've talked to him. He said, I'm going to tell you, when you're a one-man band like you are, you may want to consider putting some of your food plots, if not all of them, in clover, because you don't have to replant them every year and go through that. All you have to do is spray them maybe once or twice a year, and they reseed themselves, and they're good for 5 or 6 years. I'm looking into doing that.
That's interesting. So it's more self-sufficient versus, like work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, you go. Work smarter, not harder. I like that. I don't like spraying, but I understand that. But nevertheless, I'm going to convert a couple. I've already done 1 or 2 this year into straight clover, and the deer eat it to the ground. They love it, and so it doesn't leave a whole lot for my turkeys. The deer are so selfish.
Yeah.
I'm trying to teach them how to share.
How to share.
Yeah. But that was where we started. The browse line was too high, so we knew we had too many deer. So then, now that we have trail cameras, we didn't have trail cameras in 1985. No. And so now we got trail cameras. And we can actually monitor different locations on the farm, and I put them in different geographical locations throughout the farm. I have a really good idea what my deer population is based on my camera survey.
Right.
And and I can look at these deer a lot of time and see if there's something going on where they're being eaten up with ticks, or they have too many fleas, or if they have some sort of mange, or if they got some kind of cancer, or whether they're fat or they're thin or whatever. I can actually get a view of what they look like, and I can know more about them.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So that helps me a lot. And then, of course, I see how many predators are there with those cameras, because where you gather the deer, you gather the predators.
Right, as in their nature.
So it's easier now to understand and be more effective on managing your land from predator standpoint and from a health standpoint, fattening up your deer. It's easier now than it was when I started in 1985 because of the technology of having trail cameras.
Yeah, right. That's pretty cool. And I'd say a lot of that technology has spiraled upward. I saw some of the, God, what is that? What is that one that you use? The Wise Eye cameras. I like that. That's really cool. My dad was showing me through the app, through all the cameras and all like the different things you can do and click and see.
Yeah.
It's really,
well,
really
HuntWise, I'm going to tell you, I got my cameras. If you walk on my farm, I'm going to know it.
Oh, he's going to know.
I got cameras everywhere. I used to have trespassers. I go find boot prints, and, I know somebody's been trespassing.
The police department here says, we don't get any calls down the Hanks Lane. He deals with it himself. I'm telling you, he'll go flooring down there in his Can-Am. He's got rifle in tow.
Well, when I first bought this farm, I was just I was overrun. I lived in North Carolina. The farm's in South Carolina.
Yeah.
People resented that lived here locally. They resented the fact that a out-of-stater bought the land, and they felt they had every right to go kill every animal on it and steal my tree stands and break in my house. And I had a terrible, terrible, terrible time. And I learned, I had a game warden friend that told me, he said, you cannot bend. If you bend, they're going to break you.
Right.
What you have to do is you have to stand firm. If you catch someone trespassing, you got to prosecute them. And you can't let people run over you, or they will.
Yeah.
And so I learned that. I learned that the hard way. I try to be a nice guy. I'll always want to have a great testimony for the Lord. And sometimes it makes it difficult if you got to prosecute somebody. And I get angry. I get angry when I have people that disregard poster signs.
Disrespect everything.
It makes me angry.
Lands, yeah.
So I've battled with that, and that's personal issues that I've tried to overcome. I try not to get angry, but trail cameras have stopped all of that.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was saying when I said the newer technology, like the Wise Eye. They'll tell you like what's detected, like a person is detected, or if it's an animal, a deer, whatever it is.
They don't have to tell me. I'm looking at the picture.
I know.
I not only know that it's a trespass, I know who he is.
Now I got your face.
Yeah, I can't believe this dude is back. I warned him. Now he is going to jail.
Get prosecuted. Yeah, it's one thing. Actions have consequences. Be respectful of other people's lands. Don't go riding your four-wheelers on somebody else's land without permission. I've
had all the above.
I know. I remember there were a few times, and especially like with you having grandkids running around, I remember hearing people riding four-wheelers on the back, like right behind the pool house where all of us grandkids were. And like, that's actually really dangerous if you think about it. There's just strangers on your land. You think everybody's safe, so you're not thinking, oh, my granddaughters might be in danger or somebody coming up on my land.
Well, I had that happen early on. You know, my sons, I sent them down to turkey hunt, and they're 12 years old, very responsible. I've taught them gun control. I've taught them gun safety. Everything, they're ready.
Yeah.
And they go down, and there's a grown man trespassing, sitting beside a tree with a loaded gun, and my kids, don't go for that now. I don't go for that. But anyway, we got all that stopped, and that's one good benefit of a trail camera is you can kind of see what's going on, not only with your deer herd and with your predators, but you can see if you do have some violators that are fudging in and doing things that they don't belong. And all of that's important to keeping things going and keeping things balanced and being a good steward and taking care of your land. So,
absolutely.
Number one, keeping a balance. You cannot put 10 cows in a 1 acre field and expect them to be able to graze effectively. They will starve to death.
Right.
It's no difference in the wild. You are in control of your land. You have got to take ownership and be deliberate about taking care and making sure that your land will support and have the carrying capacity for the number of animals that live there.
Right.
If there are too many of any species, then you've got to be proactive and you've got to keep that balance where your land can support a healthy population of whatever animal we're talking about.
Yes.
That's one. Then you do all you can to build on that and to offer productive food plots, fertilize your pastures and your grass, and sometimes your trees. I fertilize some oak trees. I fertilize some persimmon trees. Mm-hmm. They offer incredible amount of yield for my wildlife. Yes. So those are the things that you can do. Mm-hmm. And you can police yourself like I have not killed a turkey on my farm in 3 years. Yep. Because our population's down. I do not feel good about harvesting a turkey on this particular farm. My population is pitiful, and it's sad to see where it was and where it is now. And I'm wanting the National Wildlife Turkey, the NWTF, I'm wanting them to give me some solutions. Yeah. What is going on?
Yeah, we're working on it. On it for sure.
Yeah,
but,
I want them to work faster.
I think that is the smartest thing that you could do is just giving them time to come up. And honestly, in my opinion, from what I've seen in my multiple wealth of knowledge and years of experience, I really think it's predators. I think that is what everyone would say is it's the predator population between bobcats that eat turkeys and turkey eggs, and then you got raccoons, you've got possums, you've got even other cats and dogs.
I'm going to tell something
turkeys,
that I hope everyone in this world will listen to, and I hope they spread this word, and I hope they listen to what I have to say, and I'm going to try and get some documentation on this. Right now, this came from one man. One of my sons went to meet with a gentleman that has been in the turkey business for 50 years. He's worked with Holly Farms, he's worked with Tyson, he's worked with Purdue, he's worked with a lot of different companies in chicken houses.
Yes.
And chicken houses are a big thing around here. So my son met with this individual, and he was sprinkling with a scooper. He was sprinkling stuff on the floor. And my son said, "What is that?" And he said, "That's rat poison." He said, chicken houses have a tremendous problem with rodents. And so we put rat poison out. And he said, "Oh, okay." And he said, "Yeah, we get it in 55-gallon drums, and we just take a scooper, and we periodically, we dust the floor with rat poison."
And that doesn't hurt the turkeys?
No, they're putting it on the floor.
Okay.
Chickens are not.
Yeah, they don't touch it. Okay, yeah, never mind.
Yeah, they're
Never mind.
So they put the rat poison on the floor to keep the rodents down. And so my son asked, he said, everybody do that? And he said, well, I don't know that everybody does. I certainly couldn't prove that, but I've worked in the business for 50 years, been in a lot of chicken houses. I don't know of any chicken houses that don't put rat poison down. I can't imagine them not, because you would be overrun with rats and mice if you didn't put down some kind of poison.
Yeah.
And he said in the summertime, we also put out fly bait, which is poison to keep the flies down, and we sprinkle that on the floor. Well, then they sweep the droppings, the chicken droppings, off the floor, and they give them to the farmers or sell it to the farmers to spread on the fields for fertilizer.
Fertilizer, yeah.
So now here you got rat poison, fly bait, fly poison.
Yep.
And you're putting that in the chicken litter, and you're selling that to a farmer to sprinkle on his farm.
Yeah.
Well, how many birds are you killing?
Oh,
How many turkeys are you killing?
True.
I think it's a much bigger problem
Wow.
than people are admitting.
I wouldn't have ever even thought about that either. And I'm sure they're thinking they're just getting the fertilizer.
Lots
fresh.
of people have thought about it. Lots of people have debated it. But I thought about it and I debated it because the chickens have, for the most part, most of them have some kind of antibiotic to keep their immune system to keep from getting diseased. So their droppings, then they may have a disease in it that they're immune to because of the antibiotics.
Yeah,
But a wild turkey don't have
Yeah.
that. So I'm thinking they're getting diseased from these droppings.
disease. Sick,
Little
yeah.
did I know that these chicken houses are spreading rodent poison and mixing that with the droppings they're spreading on the field. So these turkeys in the wild come into a field that somebody's put chicken droppings out, and they're feeding in these fields. They're exposed not only to disease that could be in the droppings that the chickens are immune to because of antibiotics, but they're also being poisoned.
With rat poison. I mean, rat poison hurt a human in
Let's
in
stop
decent
that.
dosage. I mean, like that is.
It is
I don't
it's
know.
toxic. It is
Yeah.
toxic. And so how many robins are they killing? How many cardinals are they killing? How many different species of birds that are falling victim? How many quail? How many dove? How many birds are dying as a result of this practice? And it's got to be stopped. And I'm a firm believer that our turkey population has been dramatically decreased for that reason.
Right.
I've said it all along. Harold Knight and I talked about it years ago. And I've heard other turkey hunters say, I don't believe that's the case. I don't believe that's the case. Well, I do believe it's the case.
Yep.
And I believe that we've lost lots and lots of wildlife to rat poison, that I didn't even know that's what it was.
Yep.
I just knew it was chicken droppings. So they put chicken droppings on the field for fertilizer. As fertilizer has gotten more and more and more expensive, that's a practice that more and more people are using.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's getting wider spread, and our turkey population continues to decline.
That's really interesting.
I think we need to research that. So somebody
Yeah.
that has access to being able to research that. I don't know if we can go out on the fields where this chicken droppings have been spread
test it.
and doing
Test it.
Yeah, and test it and analyze it to see how much poison's in it and how toxic it is. And
Right. If it would even make a dent, or if that's just a theory,
yeah, well, right now it's a theory,
It's a
but
theory.
I think it's probably a fact.
a strong theory.
It's a theory based on belief and not on complete evidence, but it only stands to reason to me if you're sprinkling rat poison on the floor to keep the rodents down that kills the rats. If you spread it on a field, it's going to kill the turkeys.
Yeah, I could totally see your reasoning for that. That makes sense to me.
So we need to stop
Definitely
that.
makes sense to me. Okay, so then to summarize today, pay attention. Get a survey done of your land. If you're really unsure, get a survey done. Look at your population, the predators. Be a good steward. Pop it off where you need to pop some things off at, and food, water, shelter. Your three main things
All
that
of
you need
that's
to make
important.
sure.
Food, water, shelter, that's
Food, water,
important. But
shelter.
let me just say, let's err on the side of the turkeys opposed to err on the side of the farmer that's putting the droppings on the field. Let's assume that it's killing the turkeys, and we'll prove if it's not, then we'll go back to that practice. But I would rather assume through logic that if they're putting rat poison, if they're giving chickens antibiotics, and I know Purdue says they never do that, and maybe they don't, but most chicken houses do.
Yes.
Turkey houses where they raise turkeys for Thanksgiving. Let's make sure before we put these droppings back out on these fields that they're not toxic. Let's make sure that it's not detrimental to the wildlife before we just start spreading it and say, okay, we're going to stop spreading it once the burden of proof is on you, Hank Parker. The burden of proof is on you, turkey hunter, to prove that it's killing the turkeys. Let's reverse that. And let's say it's up to you from a conservation standpoint to prove that it's not hurting them.
Right.
Because I think logic tells me if you're putting poison on the floor of a chicken house and then you're sweeping those droppings off along with that poison and you're putting it in the field, logic tells me it's detrimental.
Right. Or it's, doing
so
a lot
don't
of
put
damage.
the burden of proof on me. I want to put the burden of proof on you. Let's stop it until we can prove it's not hurting anything. Because I firmly believe it is.
I'd agree with you 100%. That makes perfect sense to me in my mind.
Right. Let's put the burden of proof on the chicken houses. Do not sell your chicken droppings for fertilizer until you can prove beyond the shadow of a doubt they're not hurting our wildlife.
Well, not even just that. I remember having a neighbor back when we lived in Kings Mountain. He used chicken droppings on his yard, and we played in that yard as little kids, And now looking back on that, I'm like, oh God. Like, if
I ain't worried about killing little kids. We're talking about important stuff. We're talking about turkeys.
I know, but I mean, it makes you think, though, too. If people aren't actively thinking about where that's coming from, who's to say your little kids aren't running out in a yard, running around in rat poison? You don't know that. You don't.
So all of those things are important. And hey, you got to be a whistleblower. If you think your turkey population is declining or your wildlife of any type is declining because of toxicities that somebody may be adding or putting out, be a whistleblower. And let's get that stopped. We're all in this thing together, and the more we work together to preserve our wildlife, the better our future is going to be.
Amen.
So I'm passionate about a turkey.
Amen.
I would rather turkey hunt than eat ice cream, and you can look at me and see that I love to eat ice cream.
No.
Yeah, I'd rather turkey hunt than to have a big banana split.
Banana pudding. How about that?
I'd rather turkey hunt. I love turkey hunting. And I have not. The reason I own my farm to begin with was for hunting. Turkey hunting is number one. And I can't even turkey hunt on my own farm.
Yep.
I cannot kill a turkey. We don't have a population to support a harvest. So I have to self-discipline myself and say no.
Yeah.
I got to go to other states where the turkey population's in good shape. South Carolina is pitiful.
Right, and thankfully you have friends around the country that do have turkeys.
Thank the Lord.
Yeah, and they'll come let you hunt.
Yeah, thank the Lord. And that's important. I'm going to Texas and take my turkey call, my shotgun.
All right.
Well,
that sounds
Texas bound.
awesome. Texas bound. And with all that being said, you got any more announcements or anything?
We got to summarize the fact that we are all stewards.
Yes.
And we need to take care of our land. And it'll be somebody else's 100 years from now. So let's leave it better than we found it.
Yes.
And let's do our part to make sure that our friends and neighbors are not innocently being detrimental to wildlife by putting out something, whatever it is. We got to make sure, DDT about wiped out the quail population, and the bald eagle suffered from DDT. Ain't no telling there is no telling what may be suffering from rat poison being spread on fields. So let's document that, find it out, let's get it stopped.
Right. I agree with that.
All right, let's be a good steward. Whistleblower and fertilize and take care and harvest and do all the good things to make sure that you've got a balanced population for whatever your land will support, and enhance your support by mowing, sowing, and fertilizing.
Amen. And just as a reminder, all of our links are in the description down below. Hit see more. And all those links will be down at the bottom of the description, as well as the links to all of our social medias as well. So make sure you go check those out.
All right. Tell everybody thank you and goodbye.
All right. Thank you, guys. See you guys next week.
Hey, thank you so much for being with us. God bless you. I'll see you next time.